Hello, welcome back to part 4 of chapter 7, class 9 CBSE from your NCERT books. I hope you keep your books open. I have told you every single time that we start a video that you have to keep your book open because you should be able to cross reference and correlate with whatever is given in the book. Only watching the video is not enough. Write notes, make question marks, make whatever marks you want to make comments along in your book with pencil, and then if you have any question you can come back to it, you can write to us. Okay, so please have your books open, and I hope you have seen parts 1, 2 and 3 before you are watching this, at least part 1 and part 3, because this is directly related to animals. Part 2 is about plant classification. Okay, but part 1, 2 and 3 are important for you to watch before you watch part 4. Don't just jump into it, you will not understand anything. Okay, so we will jump right into it. So this is all that we have learned in the parts 1, 2 and 3. Quickly, I will not talk about these. I will only talk about this. In the previous video, we spoke about the different subdivisions or phyla of animal kingdom: Porifera, Coelenterata, Platyhelminthes, Nematodora, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Protochordata, Vertebrata. Okay, Vertebrata is further divided into 6 classes, and those 6 classes we will talk about now. If you want to know more about this, if you have any question, please watch part 3 again. If you haven't, if you want to watch it, and if you haven't watched it, you have to go and watch it first. You will not understand anything otherwise. Okay, so we will jump into vertebrata. Vertebrata are those animals that have a true vertebral column and an internal skeleton. It is so well differentiated, and it is so, the tissue differentiation and the organ differentiation is so complex and so advanced that now they have a true vertebral column made up of cartilage or bones and an internal skeleton. Okay, and they also have a notochord, dorsal uh, cord, which is in human beings. In vertebrata it is brain and spinal cord. Okay, so this internal skeleton and true vertebral column gives many points of attachment to the muscles, and that helps in movement. So vertebrates are very active in movement. They can move pretty quickly because of these things. There's a complex differentiation of body tissue and organs. Vertebrates, you have seen this in the previous video also. They're all bilaterally symmetrical. They have a dorsal nerve cord. They are triploblastic. They have paired gill pouches, and they are coelomates. Paired gill pouches, chalo theek hai. But they are bilaterally symmetrical. Dorsal nerve cord, triploblastic, paired gill pouches, and coelomates. Okay, you have to remember these characteristics because you can be asked a question: what are the characteristics of vertebrates, or differentiate between vertebrates and invertebrates. By the way, anything that is not a vertebrate is called an invertebrate. Only the next few classes that we are going to be seeing are called vertebrates. अभी तक आपने जो भी पढ़ा है, including those that have a notochord or protochordata, are all invertebrates because they don't have a true vertebral column. Only animals that have a true vertebral column and are included in vertebrata are called vertebrates. Any other animal is called an invertebrate. ठीक है? So we will see what vertebrates are up ahead. There are 6 classes. In this, the 6 classes are as follows: Cyclostomata, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia. Okay, Cyclostomata, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia. You have to remember it. Always have to remember it in this order only. Even animal classification में the phyla that you have learned had to be learned in that order only. This also you have to learn only in this order. Okay. We come to cyclostomata. Cyclostomata, jawless vertebrates. They have vertebral column and they have skeleton, but they don't have a jaw. अपना jaw है ना, that I'm moving, right? That I'm moving for speaking is the jaw. So that they don't have a jaw. So that is a basic characteristic that you have to remember. These are jawless invertebrates. They don't have a jaw that moves up and down like this to eat or to consume food or something. Okay. They have an elongated eel-like body. Okay, eel आपने देखा है ना? Eels are those long ऐसे ऐसे creatures होते हैं, ऐसे slimy ऐसे fish like creatures होते हैं. They look like thick snakes that are in the water. Their elongated eel like body hoti hai in cyclostomata. They have a circular mouth because they don't have a jaw. That's why they have a circular mouth. They have a slimy skin. They have skin, and on that they have a slime ka covering, say mucus slime aisa covering hota hai. They don't have scales, right? And they're ectoparasites or borers of other animals. Ectoparasites, parasites होते हैं. Parasites are dependent on other living organisms for their food. Ectoparasites are those that live outside the body of the parasite. They are called ectoparasites. उसका उल्टा होता है endoparasite. Endoparasites are found within the body. For example, uh, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, the worms that we saw that are parasitic, those are endoparasites. Cyclostomata is ectoparasite. It is found outside the body. For example, lamprey or hagfish. This is given in your book. So this is a petromyzon, which is a lamprey. This is actually what a lamprey looks like. Actually, इसका ऐसा मुंह होता है. It has a circular mouth. It doesn't have jaws. All of these are teeth, and this is how it attaches to the substratum with using its teeth. Okay, and this is hagfish or myxine. Okay, this is what it looks like. It also has a circular mouth here and also eel-like body hoti hai. Okay, it is found in water. Okay, not found on land, found in water only. Then you come to Pisces. Now Pisces, इसके बाद के जो classes हैं, Pisces and the ones further ahead, the 5 classes, you have seen them enough to know what they are. So you will be able to correlate with whatever you have seen until now, and you have to keep those things in mind when you study this. So Pisces are fish. All kinds of fish that you see are exclusively aquatic. Of course, fish cannot live outside water. So this is a characteristic that you can write. Okay, then you can say that skin is covered in scales or plates. If you have seen a fish first and if you eat fish, or even if you have seen it like this, you will see that their body is made up of these scales. ऐसे 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 scales होते हैं. ठीक है? Nice fish. Anyway, they obtain oxygen dissolved in water through gills. They have gills on around their necks through which water passes, and that उस पानी में जो oxygen होता है, that is absorbed into their body. That is how they breathe. The body is streamlined and they have a muscular tail for movement. What is streamlining? Streamlining is that avoids friction and it allows movement through some medium. For example, aeroplanes bhi hote hain, they have a streamlined body. They allow the fluid or whatever the medium they are passing through to move alongside to avoid friction and to avoid any kind of drag, and this will allow them to gain speed. So the body is streamlined. ऐसी चौड़ी नहीं होती है. It is narrow and long. Okay, and they have a muscular tail for movement, so that they flip around, and that is how they change their direction and stuff. They are cold blooded. Now I don't know, so I'm going to explain. I don't know if you know this. What is the difference between being cold blooded and warm blooded? Now, cold blooded are those animals that cannot regulate their body temperature. If they come out in the heat, they get overheated and they can die. If they go out in the cold, they will feel cold and they will die, right? These are cold blooded animals that cannot they cannot change their body, regulate their body temperature so as to compensate for the temperature outside in the environment. In comparison, warm blooded animals, for example human beings, are warm blooded. Warm blooded animals can regulate their body temperature. If you feel very hot, your body starts to sweat. If you feel very hot, your body starts to sweat, and that sweat will cool your body down. That is how you regulate body temperature. If you're feeling cold, you shiver. That shivering gives off energy, it burns energy, which is why you start to feel warm. That is how your body can regulate the body temperature, which other animals such as fish cannot do. ठीक है, they can only bear a certain range of temperatures, उसके ऊपर and नीचे they cannot survive. Okay, that is called being cold blooded. ठीक है, they are more scientific terms poikilotherms and homoiotherms, but चलो अभी you learn only about cold blooded and warm blooded. Their hearts have two chambers. अपने हार्ट में कितने होते हैं? We have four chambers, right? Fish hearts have two chambers. You have it ventricles and auricles. Not auricles, atrium and ventricles, right? So they have only two chambers in their heart. So they are cold blooded and they have two chambers. They lay eggs. Okay, they for example, sharks have a cartilaginous skeleton. That is why they are not very rigid, they can be flexible, they have a cartilaginous skeleton. Sharks are fish, for example, and then you have tuna, roe, etc. They have skeleton made of both bones and cartilage. So either only cartilage or both bone and cartilage. So fish have only cartilaginous skeleton. There are a lot of examples given. If you have seen Finding Nemo or Finding Dory, you will know this. If you haven't seen them, please do watch it. Nice movies. And these are the examples that are given in your book. So this is mandarin fish. This is how colorful it is. Why I give you these photographs is so that you can see them actually what they look like, not just these stylized diagrams that you have here. So you have mandarin fish. Then this is lionfish here. Lionfish. You have anglerfish. If you have seen Finding Nemo, I'm sure you know anglerfish also. Then you have the electric ray. Electric ray gives off electric pulses. This is the stingray. Okay, and this is the scoliodon or dogfish. It's a shark. This is a shark, kind of shark. Okay, so these are aquatic. They're covered in scales or plate. They obtain oxygen through gills. Body streamlined, cold-blooded. That is why they cannot regulate their body temperature. Hearts have two chambers and they lay eggs. Okay. Then we come to, these you have some more photographs of fish. This is rohu. रोहू एंड कटला खाते हैं बहुत सारे. And this is seahorse. Seahorse doesn't really look like much like a fish, but do you know what is the specialty of seahorse? The father, the male seahorse is the one that actually keeps the eggs in its pouch and then those eggs get laid. This is a flying fish. The flying fish doesn't really fly like a bird, but it jumps. And these are climbing perch. Here the pectoral fins. If you are ever asked to draw, you can keep one of these in mind. ये एक आधा draw कर लो. You just remember these and you remember that they have, you make a basic diagram like this, make this head, make this, and then you make a fin, and then you just have to label. Remember the labeling, okay? You have the pectoral fin, pelvic fin, and caudal fin. There are three main fins. If you are for example, here you see in the flying fish the pectoral fins are modified into these wing like structures. Pelvic fin is just bigger so that it, so you have these things. And you please remember, if you have this, if you have ever have to make a fish, then you can make a simple fish and then you label it this way. Okay, then you have amphibia. We had cyclostomata, then Pisces, and now we have amphibia. Amphibia are amphibians. They can live either on land and in water. Actually, they need both land and water for certain things. Okay, they lack scales, but they have mucus gland on their skin. Because they are adapting to living on the land, they need to be able to keep their skin moist. That is why they have a mucus gland on their skin to keep the skin moist. They have a three chambered heart. Fish had two chambered, they have a three chambered heart. Okay, the respiration is through gills or lungs. Depends on where they are, if they are in water or on land. They lay eggs, but they need water. Okay, uh, example, frogs, toads, salamanders, etc. Okay, they require water when they are growing because their eggs are very soft. They don't have a hard shell on them, so their eggs are very soft. That is why they need to be laid in water. That is why they are called amphibians and require both land and water for their life cycle. So salamander, it looks like a lizard, but because of these characteristics, it is an amphibian. Then this is a toad, this is a tree frog, and this is a common frog, right? This is a frog. What is the difference between frog? You can see the skin. The skin here in a toad is much more like spiky and rough. Frogs have a smoother but more slimy skin. Then you have reptilia. Reptilia are cold blooded. All of these are cold blooded. अभी तक जो हैं वो सारे cold blooded हैं, which means they cannot regulate their body temperatures. Reptilia, you know reptiles, right? So reptiles, all reptiles are reptilia, belong to this division. They have scales. They breathe through lungs. They have a three-chambered heart, except crocodiles, which have a four-chambered heart. So fish had two, amphibians and reptiles have three-chambered heart, except crocodiles, which have a four-chambered heart. They lay eggs with tough covering. That is why they do not need water to lay eggs. Their eggs, if you see eggs, if you see normal eggs that you eat, they have a very hard, tough covering. Amphibian eggs do not have that kind of covering. That is why they need water to keep those, to ensure that they don't break or they don't desiccate, they don't dehydrate. So reptiles have eggs with tough covering or a shell, which is why they do not need water to lay eggs. For example, snakes, turtles, lizards, crocodiles. If you know reptiles, um, age of reptiles, you had dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were also reptiles. Okay, dinosaurs were all reptiles. So turtles, there's a turtle, there's a chameleon, there's a king cobra, this is a flying lizard, there's a domestic house lizard that you see in your house. I'm sure you have seen this. And there's a crocodile. So all of these are reptiles. Okay, what are the characteristics? They are cold-blooded, they have scales, breathe through lungs. What is the difference between amphibian and reptile here? That they lay eggs with tough covering. That is why they do not need water to lay eggs. That is one of the main differences. Then you have aves. Aves are warm-blooded. We have talked about cold-blooded. Aves are warm-blooded. Warm-blooded means they are able to modulate their body temperature according to the temperature of the environment, of the atmosphere around them. That is why they are called warm-blooded. Okay. What are aves? They are just basically birds. They have a four-chambered heart. Okay. Pisces two-chambered, fish had two-chambered hearts, amphibians had three-chambered heart, reptiles also had three-chambered heart except crocodile, which has a four-chambered heart, and birds have a four-chambered heart. Birds also are warm-blooded. Okay. They lay eggs. Of course, you have seen the eggs. They are hard. They have a hard covering on them. The outside covering is made up of feathers. Forelimbs are modified for flight. Now, if you see everything that has flown until now, you have seen butterflies, you have seen flies. You in arthropoda you studied these. You saw flying lizard. अभी पिछले में देखा था flying lizard देखा. So these are not birds simply because, of course, for other reasons also, but their flight is very different. Their feathers, they don't have feathers on their wings, है ना? Especially flying lizards they don't really fly, they don't flap their wings and don't fly like birds, but they glide over trees. For example, they jump and they just glide using the air का जो ऊपर उनका होता है, uh, I forget what it's called, but they use that and they glide over something. That is why they're called flying lizards or flying foxes. These are flying foxes, you will see ahead. And these are not birds. There are differences. There are differences in flying. Their forelimbs are modified to flight, but their outside covering is made up of feathers. Okay? Not all birds can fly though. Most birds, majority of the birds fly. They breathe through lungs. And all birds are under this category of aves. So for example, white stork, you have an ostrich. Ostrich cannot fly. Ostrich, emu, kiwi, cassowary, these are birds that cannot fly. This is a male tufted duck. There is a pigeon. I'm sure you have all seen pigeons. They are very bad creatures. This is a sparrow, a crow. Of course, you have seen this. This is a raptor. Raptors are birds that are birds of prey. They eat other animals, right? So raptors is, I think, there's a hawk. There's a vulture, right? Vultures. So my thing is, there's this tiny little sparrow. And then you have this big huge vulture which the wingspan of which can reach up to 6 to 8 feet. So they're really really large birds. And then you have mammalia. Okay, Cyclostomata, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Avis, and Mammalia. Birds, a lot of birds I think have evolved from reptiles, because this is how evolution takes place. Then you have mammalia. Mammals are warm blooded animals. They have a four chambered heart like birds. The difference is that they have mammary glands for production of milk to nourish young ones. Okay, they have mammary glands in which um, they give birth to live ones, right? So they give birth to most mammals except for a couple of them like platypus and echidna. They do not lay eggs, but they give birth to their young ones. Okay, the young ones develop inside their body, inside the female body, and then they give birth to young ones which are not very developed, but they can grow further. And to nourish the young ones after they are grown, they have mammary glands which produce milk to nourish the young ones. Okay, that is why it is mammalia. It refers to the mammary glands. Okay, the skin has hair, sweat, and oil glands. When you're talking about mammalia, think about yourself. It has skin. The skin has hair, sweat, sweat glands, and oil glands. For example, you have a blue whale here. This is the largest mammal. A whale is a mammal. Okay, a beluga whale is a mammal. A killer whale is a mammal. Killer dolphins are mammals. Blue whales are mammals. Okay, these are huge mammals. They are aquatic, but they are mammals. They are different from sharks and other creatures because they are warm blooded and they give birth to their young ones. Blue whale does not lay eggs. Okay, this is young ones of a cat. Then you have rat. Then you have a bat. Then you have a chimpanzee, which is an ape. You have, this is a platypus, a duck-billed platypus. There's an echidna. They lay eggs, right? They have a lot of they're somewhere between mammals, but they are put into mammals for the different kind of for certain characteristics that are specific for mammals. But they lay eggs. Both echidna and platypus, they actually lay eggs. Kangaroo gives birth to a young one. It does not lay eggs, but the young one, the kid is called the kid. The kid is very very small. That is why it needs to grow in a pouch. That is why a kangaroo has a pouch. It's called a marsupial. No, marsupial animal has a pouch in which the small kid will grow until it reaches a certain age where it can live independently. And human you can see here. Anyway, so these are mammalia. This is mammalia. So this is the total entire classification of animals that we have seen in part 3 and part 4. The first level of classification is cellular, the level of organization of the body. Cellular level of organization, poriferans do not have any tissue. So poriferans have a cellular level of organization. Then you have tissue level of organization, in which you have acoelomates, pseudocoelomate and coelomate. Okay, here acoelomates do not have a body cavity. Here you have coelenterata and platyhelminthes. They do not have a body cavity between epidermis and gastrodermis. Gastrodermis is the inner layer. Epidermis is the outer layer. They do not have any body cavity between that. And platyhelminthes and coelenterata, you have seen the difference. Platyhelminthes are bilaterally symmetrical and they have a higher tissue level of organization. But since they do not have any coelom or true body cavity, they are called acoelomates. Then you have pseudocoelomates, which are nematoda, which don't have a true body cavity. They do have some sort of a primitive body cavity, nematoda or ascominthes. Then you have coelomate. Okay, under coelomates you have these. You have a mesodermal cell. Mesodermal cells from a single cell during growth of the uh, embryo. Here it basically means that the coelom grows from a mesodermal cell during growth of the embryo. So in these there are three: Annelida, mollusca and Arthropoda. Okay, Annelida, Arthropoda, mollusca. That is how you have to write it. You have to remember it like that. Okay. Here in coelomates there is the second division. Okay, this is the second. This is the third level of classification. Here the coelom is formed. You have coelomate, so you have true coelom. The coelom is formed by the endodermis. Here endodermal cell, here you have mesodermal cell. So these three, Annelida, Arthropoda and mollusca, are from the coelom is formed from the, they are coelomates, they have a true coelom. The coelom is made from mesodermal cell. Here the coelom is made from endodermal cell. Okay. Here again you have fourth level of classification is the presence or absence of notochord. So something, so the coelom formed from endodermis, but there is no notochord, so it was echinodermata, and the notochord is present, so they have chordata. Remember in the last slide I told you that there is actually vertebrata is not a phylum, chordata is the phylum. So this is actually how it should be. It is actually chordata which is differentiated into protochordata and vertebrata, but in your book it is given protochordata and vertebrata like that. They have only mentioned chordata here. Okay, so there is no notochord and echinodermata. Notochord is present, chordata. And you have the fourth level of classification where the notochord is rudimentary and present either in larval stage or at least in the larval stage. It is protochordata, and here the notochord is replaced by vertebral column in animals. So the notochord develops into vertebral column when they become animals. That is why they are called vertebrata. All of these other ones are called invertebrates. And only these are called vertebrates. Okay, invertebrates, vertebrates again, you have the fifth level of differentiation. They don't have a jaw, jawless vertebrates. So cyclostomata, then exoskeleton of scales. These are characteristics. Okay, exoskeleton of scales, endoskeleton of bone of cartilage, and breathing through gills, Pisces. Okay, they have an exoskeleton also which is made up of scales, and then they breathe through gills, and endoskeleton is made up of bone or cartilage. Pisces are fish. Amphibia, gills in larva. Larval stages have gills. Okay, and adults have lungs, and they have a slimy skin. When they are, because they're on the land, they need to maintain the moisture of their skin. They don't want to dry, so they have moist skin. They are amphibians. Reptiles have exoskeleton of scales. Amphibia don't have any scales. Reptiles have a scale, exoskeleton of scales. They lay eggs outside of water. That is the difference, main difference between the reptiles and amphibia. All reptiles here. Aves, exoskeleton of feathers. Feather also gives exoskeleton. There are feathers that have a thin hollow bone, and those, because they have a bone, their exoskeleton is, but because the bone is hollow, they are very light. That is why they can fly. Okay, and flight is possible because of that light body structure, because of the air cavity inside the bone. They lay eggs outside of water, and here the in reptiles and in birds, these are birds, aves, the eggs are covered with a thick covering. Okay, they have a thick covering on that. That is why they don't get desiccated or they don't die. And then you have mammals, mammalia, where they have exoskeleton of hair. We also have an exoskeleton that's of hair. Okay, they have external ears. Okay, this is also a characteristic of mammals. They have external ears. They mostly give birth to live young ones, right? That is a big part of mammalia, and also have mammary glands. That is why they are called mammalia. Okay, except platypus and echidna and such animals, and a few, only a couple of them, they give birth to live young ones. Okay, and they have mammary glands for nourishment of the young ones. So this is the basic classification, and you have no option but to learn it. I know it is very complicated and it is very tough to remember all of these, but you have to keep repeating. I will give you a tip. What you should do is make this chart. Okay, this chart घर पे बनाओ on a big chart paper. Make it colorful. For example, porifera को एक color दो. Then you have tissue level of organization. Okay, coelomate should be written in one color, then acoelomates in one color, pseudocoelomates in one color, coelomate in one color. Then you can have one color for mesodermal coelom, then you can have one color for endodermal coelom, right? Then you have without any notochord you have one color, and like this you differentiate between all of these, and you make a chart and you keep looking at it and you keep repeating this in your head. Porifera, coelenterata, platyhelminthes, ascomynthes or nematoda, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Chordata में Protochordata, Vertebrata. You keep repeating this in your mind because unfortunately this has to be rotified. You can't really understand it much. I have tried to explain the meaning of the words so that you understand. For example, Protochordata का अगर you can say that it is rudimentary, notochord, you can remember the characteristics like this, but you have to remember the order. You have to remember, use mnemonics. Mnemonics पता है, you take the first alphabet of all of this. For example, porifera P, then you take Coelenterata ka C, then you have Platyhelminthes ka, Nematoda ka N, then you have Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca. Anyway, so you take these first alphabets and then you make a sentence of these. For example, I told you about keep pot clean, otherwise family gets sick, for kingdom, phylum, and all those things. So please make a sentence like that so that you can remember. Don't get confused with Annelida and Arthropoda. Annelida comes first. Okay, and remember this. This has to be learned. I know this is confusing. I know this is difficult. I know this can be overwhelming because I remember being taught this and it is very confusing. Now it feels easy. It still doesn't feel easy, but now at least having studied this, it is stuck in my mind. So I can. This was like a revision for me, but I can understand that it is very difficult to do in the first place. I have tried to give you tips. Unfortunately, this is something that you have to learn. You have to know what works best for you. So, to how to learn it, I will give you. I will tell you that you make a chart and you put it someplace in your room where you see it every single day. Make it for plants also and make it for animals also separately. Okay, and so you can have a five kingdom classification. Monera, Protista, and fungi are not. You don't. Thankfully, you didn't have them much in detail. Plantae is also not much in detail. You only have five classes that you have to learn, and angiosperm you have monocot and dicot. But other than animals are the most. This is the most complicated here that you have to learn, and you have to learn the characteristics also. What you can do is you can club these and you can say इधर तक ऐसा है, इधर तक ऐसा है, इसके बाद ऐसा होता है. Diploblastic, diploblastic, and then you have triploblastic, and then you have, yeah, these are radially symmetrical and the rest are bilaterally symmetrical. That is how you learn, and then you can say कि इसके बाद जो भी आएगा then that will be bilaterally symmetrical. You write that as a characteristic. इसके पहले जो भी आएगा that will be uh, an acoelomate. Then you write that कि it doesn't have a coelom, a true coelom. You can remember it like that. Okay, that is why I keep telling you कि ये सारे invertebrates हैं, so that if any of these come, you at least have one characteristic to remember, that this is an invertebrate. It doesn't have a vertebral column, it doesn't have a notochord. You can write it as a characteristic. Here invertebrates, you can say that they have a true vertebral column, so they are vertebrates. Okay, then you have I that's why these are all, these three are acoelomates. This is a, so you can say that they don't have a coelom cavity. In pseudocoelomate, you can say they don't have a true coelom cavity. Then all of these you can write that they have a coelom cavity. Okay, that is how you learn. ये common characteristics याद रखो. यहाँ के बाद these are radially symmetrical. ये दो radially symmetrical हैं, बाकी सारे bilaterally symmetrical हैं. Then these are also all triploblastic. ये these two are diploblastic. Everything else is triploblastic. Right? So remember these main characteristics and you can write those common characteristics. So at least you will have some basic characteristics, three or four you will be able to remember. ठीक है, vertebrates में you can remember कि Aves and Mammalia are warm blooded. Okay, these are warm blooded. These are all cold blooded. You can remember something like this. This is a two-chambered heart. These have three-chambered heart. These have four-chambered heart. You can remember it, like you have to be able to group them, and you can say कि इसमें ऐसा होता है. What you do is you look at other photographs, you look at other of these descriptions of other animals found in these classes, and then you try to find certain things like mollusca. You can say that they have a hard exoskeleton shell, or arthropoda jointed legs, and you remember one specific characteristic of that group. Annelida का segmented body, arthropoda का jointed legs, echinodermata का spiny skin. Remember that, and then you remember certain basic things like triploblastic, bilaterally symmetrical, coelomate. Okay, so you have four or five ready, and that is how you remember. And then you have to unfortunately learn all of this anyway. You really can't do without learning these, and you have to learn this in a specific order. It always has to start from Porifera, then go to Coelenterata, then go to Platyhelminthes, then go to Nematoda. You cannot do it any other way. Okay? You have to learn this. Just keep repeating this. इसको एक से song की तरह बना के you just repeat it, and that is how I learned it. I learned it by making it into like a ऐसे tune देके just keep revising it, keep revising it. It gets so stuck in your mouth and stuck in your head that when you are writing it in your exam, then you just remember that song, and then you can come to that point. Okay? You have to use colors, use music, use something of that sort to help you remember all this. Okay? It is, I know it is complicated, but there is no other way, unfortunately. So there is one more thing that you have something called nomenclature. It's actually pretty easy. Isme you don't have to be complicated by the you don't have to feel that it is difficult by the complicated name. Just because it is nomenclature, that is why something very difficult. No, nomenclature is very easy. Nomenclature basically means naming. Okay, the devising or choosing of names for things, especially in a science or other discipline. So scientific name dena is called nomenclature. This also you will also learn in further ahead in chemistry. If you take chemistry after 11th 12th mein, you will learn about nomenclature of chemical compounds also. So nomenclature is not only for biological organisms or life forms, but also for other things. Just naming anything that you name is called nomenclature. So what happens is when you have one single animal, you have um, in one you have many names for that single animal in different languages. जैसे just look at tiger. A tiger is tiger in English. It's called शेर in or शेर कहते हैं उसको. And there are a lot of different words. अब शेर होता है या सिंह होता है, then lion and tiger में भी confusion होता है, right? And or if you have like peacock is called more. So even in Hindi and English, you cannot, if you go to England or if you talk to somebody who doesn't know Hindi, you will not be able to tell them what a moor is, because that they don't call it a moor, they call it a peacock. So that is what happens when you have common names. It is very difficult for you to tell somebody that this is what you're talking about. So there has to be a common language, right? Because the same organism is called different names in different areas and regions. Okay, so even in India, if you go from one place to the other, one animal is called something else in one language, something else in the other language. So it is necessary that you are able to communicate what you want to say to somebody else. That is why you need a common language, and that is why you need to have a scientific name. Okay, that scientific name is unique to each organism. उस organism का नाम जो है वो हर जगह सेम होगा. So if you give it a scientific name, that scientific name will mean the same organism everywhere, right? Humans are homo sapiens. Anywhere you say homo sapiens, you mean human beings. आप उसको आदमी बोलो या human बोलो, but it is still a homo sapien. So that is what is meant by a scientific name, because it is unique to each organism and it can be used to identify it anywhere around the world. This is actually an exercise in your book. It's a question in your book. Find out the names of these animals, of these organisms. So I've given you as an example. I have solved that question for you. So tiger is Panthera tigris. This is what the nomenclature. I will tell you what these two names are. Okay. So you remember these. Please remember these. Tiger is Panthera tigris. Peacock is Pavocristatus. Ant is Lasius niger. Ant can be anything. So this is the common black ant that I have taken, that you find in the garden. Lasius niger. There are a lot of different species of ants, so you have different names. Neem tree is Azadirachta indica. Azadirachta indica. Lotus is Nelumbo necifera. And potato is Solanum tuberosum. Tomato is Lycopersicum esculent. Okay, that was used to be Solanum lycopersicum. So tiger is Panthera tigris. Peacock is Pavo cristatus. Ant is Lasius niger. Neem is Azadirachta indica. Lotus is Nelumbo nucifera. Potato is Solanum tuberosum. You see that I have written these names in italics. I will give you the significance of this ahead in the next slide. Okay? So anywhere you go, if you say tiger, tiger, you may or may not, if you go to some place where they don't speak English, people may not understand what you mean by tiger, right? So if you want to communicate to the scientific community that this is what it is, you say it is Panthera tigris. So it is common everywhere. Everywhere a tiger is called Panthera tigris, right? Peacock is called Pavo cristatus everywhere, right? यहाँ आप मोर बोलोगे, इंग्लिश में आप पीकॉक बोलोगे, but Pavocristatus is the name for, is actually the common name. For example, if you think about it, you are called whatever your name is, you are called something in school. घर पे you are called something else, right? But your official name is this, is the one that you have on your birth certificate or something. So that is what this is. This is a scientific name. What this, and you saw that whatever names I gave are have two names. That is called binomial nomenclature. Bi here means two, right? So there are two names. And why are there two names? I'll tell you. It was introduced by Carolus Linnaeus in the 18th century. Carolus Linnaeus was a great naturalist. He worked a lot on plants, and then he is the one who started classification right early in 1750 something. So in the 18th century, scientific name is the result of process of classification. You just can't name anything. ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते कि this I will name this. It is a process of classification. It comes right from the beginning, right from the kingdom level. It has been classified, and then you finally reach the name that you saw. So you have this classification, right? You have kingdom, phylum or division. You have class, order, family, genus, species. This is how something is classified, right? For example, if you take tiger, tiger is Panthera tigris. Okay, if it is Panthera tigris, ये पूरा किंगडम से चालू हुआ है. It starts from kingdom Animalia, then it goes to phylum Vertebrata, phylum Chordata, goes to subphylum Vertebrata, and stuff like this. That is how it moves, right? The families, whatever. So it is a process of classification. ये क्लासिफाई होके फिर इसको ऐसे नाम आया है. फालतू में ऐसे नाम, इट इज नॉट जस्ट गिवन अ नेम कि चलो दिस इज गोइंग टू बी द नेम. It is classified right from the beginning, and then it is given a name. But we cannot list the whole name. If you say that it is tiger, you cannot say okay Animalia, then ye, and then ye, and then. So what you do is you just name, you do not write the whole hierarchy, you just name the genus and species. Okay, you just write the name of the genus and then you write the name of the species. So Panthera of tiger is the genus name. Tigris of tiger is the specific name or the species name. There are certain conventions that you have to remember. Very easy conventions. Once or twice you practice this, you will learn this and you will never forget it. Okay. Convention is that the name of the genus begins with a capital letter. The first name that you write is the generic name, the genus. For example, Homo sapiens ka Homo is the genus name, right? It begins with the capital letter. Always, always. For example, tiger ka Panthera tigris, P is capital. Pavocristatus of peacock, Pavo is the genus, Cristatus is species, Pavo ka P is capital. Name of the species begins with a small letter, right? If you read Panthera tigris, P is capital, T of tigris is small. Homo sapiens में H is capital, it is a genus name. Species name begins with a small letter, so sapiens is small. Okay. Pavocristatus, P capital, C छोटा. Okay. When printed, the scientific name is given in italics. Remember in the previous slide also I showed when I gave you the names, I had written them in italics. When it is printed, they are given in italics. Okay. So you see all these three conventions. H capital, generic name is first, H capital. S, species name with a small, species name comes second, so small, written in italics. But when you write it, when it is handwritten, then the both names should be underlined separately. You cannot write it in italics. How are you going to write it in italics? So when you write, for example, Homo sapiens, you have to underline them like this separately. Okay. These are the four conventions that you have to remember when you write the genus and the specific names. If you look at the previous slides also, in the entire video, you have been given photographs along with that. आपके book में देखो, book में you have been given photographs and उसको नीचे you have been given the scientific name. Most of the times it is एक ही नाम दिया होगा ना, that name is the genus name. अगर एक ही नाम दिया है तो वो जीनस नेम होगा. दैट इज वाई इट ऑलवेज स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम अ कैपिटल वर्ड. हाँ, हमेशा आई आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर स्पॉन्जिला. स्पॉन्जिला याद आ रहा है मुझे. स्पॉन्जिला इज इन फाइलम पोरिफेरा. सो स्पॉन्जिला ही दिया है. इफ यू लुक एट द बुक इट इज ओनली स्पॉन्जिला. दैट इज ओनली द जीनस नेम. दे हैव नॉट गिवन द स्पीसीज नेम. दैट इज एक्सेप्टेबल if you have a wide range of species and you don't want to give about a certain or specific organism, you can just write the generic name. There are certain characteristics of that genus that you want to represent, so that is why you give only the genus name. That is always written in cap with a capital letter, and if you see, it will always be written in italics. It is printed in italics, and here I have to underline it. You have to underline them separately. Okay, so Pavocristatus diya hai, so Pavo here and Cristatus. Okay, Panthera tigris, here Panthera underlined and tigris separately. You can do this. You have lotus or neem is Azadi Rakhta indica. Azadi Rakhta is the genus name. You can just write Azadi Rakhta, but then it would mean a few different organisms, not a specific organism. Azadi Rakhta indica. When you write Azadi Rakhta indica, it means only one specific organism. Then you have to underline them separately. Please remember, generic name capital, species name always has to be small. Okay, it is not capital. Okay, genus name, specific name is always small. Underlined when you are writing in a paper or when you write anywhere, you have to underline them separately. Do not underline them together, and do not forget to underline, otherwise you lose marks. And then it doesn't become a scientific name, it becomes a common name. For scientific name, when you're printing, it is always this thing italics. Otherwise, if you're writing it, you have to underline them separately. Please remember these four conventions. Okay. And this is what is binomial nomenclature. Two name system where you have two names for one organism, and that is how you know that it is that organism. Anywhere, any book that is printed will only give that organism will only be given that name. Okay. नीम का नाम और कुछ नहीं हो सकता. It will always be Azadi Rakhta indica. Tiger will always be Panthera tigris. Human will always be Homo sapiens. Even humans में देखो, there are so many different kind of humans, but they can all interbreed. That is why they are one species. So they are all Homo sapiens. Peacock will always be Pavocristatus. If you have some other kind of pavo, then it is some other kind of peacock which may or may not be able to interbreed. That is why it is important for pinpointing that. It is important to have both the genus and the species name. Species name uh, can be repetitive. So there are many of them have the species name indica or indicus, but only species name will not give you anything. You have to write it with a genus name will give you a lot of information. Okay, genus के साथ species will give you the whole whole the organism that you want to pinpoint. But genus name is also, if you are given only one name, it is the genus name. Okay. All right, so what have we learned in this video? We have learned that vertebrata is divided into 6 classes: cyclostomata, pisces, amphibia, reptilia, and aves, and mammalia. Okay, these you have seen that chart. Please, मैंने आपको जो टिप्स दिए हैं वो उसका पालन करो. Okay, binomial nomenclature, uniform way of identification, two name system. Okay, so you have to write the convention is uh, genus name capital underline, species name chota underline. Okay, this is what we have learned in this video. And the first is the genus name, the second is the species name. This is all that we have learned in chapter 7. If you want, you can stop at this on this slide, stop the video at this point, just go through it. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, you can go to that point, you can go to that part. This is covered in part 1. This is covered in part 2. This is covered in part 3, and this here is covered in part 4. Okay, if you have any query, if you have any question, please write to us. I'll be more than happy to tell you. I'll be more than happy to answer your queries. If you like this video, like it on YouTube here, share with your friends, subscribe to it, and press the bell icon so that you get notified when we post more videos. Again, if you have any question, just email me, given on the email given below, or you can comment. And if you like this video, also please do comment. It gives me a lot of motivation to make videos for you. All right, so this is the end of chapter 7. I hope you have understood. I've tried to explain it as much as possible. Okay, chalo then. See you. Bye.